So unsurprisingly, a nice little Phoenix opener. I don't know if this should be surprisingly. I don't know if Rail is like crazy about Phoenix, but this seems to be a pretty popular choice now because Terrans are just so heavily focused on this harass style. But Soul in this game, while he did open with the Cyclone and the Viking, and he is going for the second Viking, very fast third command center. So yeah, like when I look at this, I feel like Soul is thinking that Rail is going to do what we saw out of Goblin against Hero Marine, right? He's like, okay, well, I'm gonna play crazy greedy. At some point, there's gonna be maybe like a Phoenix Zealot attack. There's a Colossus out with this, I think, with the army as well, or not with the army. Okay, so he's kept the Colossus. He's rallying it across the map. I was looking for it. There it is. It's going through the speed zone by itself, but that's why I guess he's like, okay, I'm just gonna get the bunkers before I land the command center. Just want to make sure everything is situated. So he's playing with the same idea, but he's trying to take a different approach on how to solve the problem, right? He's trying to do one of those math things where he just solves it differently than the teacher said the way you're supposed to. And let's see if that works. The first siege tank gets picked up, but not killed. So only the Cyclone goes down at the start of this little do-si-do zombie grub. And I'm not hating what Soul has done here. I think trying to squeeze into that natural, you're still just a little bit too close to those tanks.
I'm honestly pretty confused that Rail even tried. Like, I don't mind him posturing because he's the one that clearly can. He sees his opponent very defensively set up, and apparently, like, he can just sit outside if he wanted to. But I was really surprised he moved in because, well, I think you might be right. There's definitely that caution against anything early game, right? Even though we saw the robotics bay, I mean, if he was going to warp in units continuously, it still was a large amount of units, but they wouldn't have upgrades. And I'm not talking about 1-1. They didn't have charges. He did kind of take an awkward engagement. He lost 2 tanks, and then that wasn't all of his army on the right side. So if he was caught before he successfully retrieved, it could have been trouble. As it is, I don't think Rail should be pushing into this. That is plenty of Terran army. He lost his Warp Prism, just got mass EMP'd. Apparently he has some storms in there, but it's hard to honestly tell. I think he's got 2 more, maybe. But most importantly, he's 5 Colossus, and he's going to try to abuse that range as much as he can. Or at least take out a couple of these SCVs, but pushing into those tanks, not so much.
Yeah, the hard part with this is I love the transition in Liberators. It's necessary, but he doesn't have upgrades for them. You know, we know the Liberator has a huge power spike at +2 weapons against Protoss specifically. But also the range upgrade's not quite done yet. It's just a teensy bit slow if this was what he wanted to use defense-wise. But now it does finally have 2 Liberators. And then, of course, to deal with that properly, once they get range, and there's a lot of them, you either go crazy with Stalkers. I'm just going to point out that Rail has not gotten Blink or started it, or you have to go big Stargate. And there's the Fleet Bacon booting up. He's got that on the grill, so we're going to see probably some tier 3 air sizzling out there in a few minutes' time. He's maxed out, Rail is, but maybe he's going to wait for 3-3. That's way too many Liberators. You can't just like attack into that. This is what the Tempest job is.
If Rail wants to attack in, I'd love to see the rocks broken. But on the other hand, he's probably going to take this base, right, and then just siege up. So yeah, just leave the rocks there.
That is also a smart thing to do. Zombie Grub, I want to ask you a crazy question here as these Tempests are poking against the Liberators. I'm trying to see if he's going to actually push up here or not. I'm kind of curious about the way that this upgrade works. It really greatly diminishes how many shots you need to shave off the turrets and whatnot, right? Oh my God, he's gonna nuke. All right, forget it. I'll ask my weird question later. This is fun. I like seeing this stuff. Let's just hope he doesn't blow himself up, right? That's against late game air Protoss air. That's the new meme.
Special.
Yeah.
He's actually lacking the high ground vision, funnily enough. His Liberators aren't close enough, so that's why he has to scan every now and again. So yeah, I don't know if you're getting there with the Tempest upgrade, but I don't know how much it reduces the shot skill missile turret. Don't know anything about that, but it is only if the missile turrets are even going to be a part of this engagement. It could very well be that Soul is forced to retreat past, his turret line, and then they just die the regular old-fashioned way against Zealots or what have you. As it does seem like he's the one getting pushed back for now, but I think it was because he was raising his Viking count, which now he's feeling a little more confident about. There are only 3 Tempests, which really isn't that impressive. Even some Liberator harassment to pull some of Rail's army away. I wonder if Rail's going to be adding on anything other than Tempest here. I mean, Carriers can be a bad thing to add on if he's at a certain amount.
No, Carriers to deal with the Vikings for sure, right? Like just Tempest alone, you're going to eventually have a trouble here, and you only have the Templar to deal with that. But if you can get enough Carriers, Vikings are very flimsy. Like they're not actually tremendous against them if you have any sort of backup for those units. Tries to get a couple of Cloaked Ghosts to slip through. I think he did get an EMP on one of the Templars. Still a full energy one. what I don't understand, Zombie Grub, is why Rail has 4,000 minerals and hasn't tried to reinforce this position with any static defense. Like, I know that there's nukes, but you know, at some point you have to kind of leverage your confidence at dealing with the nukes against defending against everything else. And I don't know, maybe he's not confident against nukes because this one's about to get pay dirt.
17 probes going down is pretty nice. I mean, he certainly has the bank to replace it, but especially if it draws anything away or gets a couple of units, just a measly little feedback there, and Rail has to give up his base. Okay, Soul's gonna play it pretty safe. Another nuke on that third.
Into the Vikings too. They're all super dead.
They're dead. Well, that one on the right side, they're dead anyways. I mean, keeping some alive isn't a bad idea. I does see that nuke this time. I'm with you. I think there was maybe an opportunity for cannons, shield batteries, whatever, to go down there. But I guess he just wasn't confident he was going to keep that position.
Yeah, even if he had put them back, like in between the gold gas base and his west side base, you know what I mean? Just somewhere where it wouldn't really be in the nuke range, but he could just step over there as he keeps getting poked at. Because now Soul is starting to just pick him apart. It feels like Rail has had all this money. And he's like, I don't know, I'm stupidly rich and I don't know what to do. At which point, all I say is, and there's that nice delay. So the balls are still blue when they shoot air units, but they turn orange when they shoot ground units, and that's...
Ah, okay. It makes
bothers
sense
me.
maybe if it was only when it shot buildings.
But it's still shooting a building. Buildings in the air.
Oh wait, you're right. Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a mistake. I guess we'll never get it fixed. SCV is being purposefully sacrificed. Don't worry about that.
Wants to free up the supply. He's going into Battlecruisers, by the way, which I do like. I'm just wondering why Rail hasn't done ye old standard, the new standard thing, which is like, oh, I've got a massive bank and Terran is sieging me in one spot. Why not just blink like 12 DTs onto this planetary? Isn't that what all the cool Protoss kids do now?
Absolutely.
Everybody's doing blink. Everyone's doing Shadow Stride.
I mean, it gets maybe a little bit awkward if there is really like a big engagement and you have like 20 supply that's not involved. Sure, yeah, I'll admit that. But usually what happens is that 20 supply isn't really going to convince the Terran to pull the trigger or not. So you have, 10, 20 supply of harassment units doing whatever they want, and that's pretty deadly to the economy and the expansion process. But Rail does seem to be missing some of the crucial things about late game. And as we get Battlecruisers involved, here's where I go from being like, well, the Protoss can get to those Tempests really quickly, start pushing back the Liberators, and it gets a little dodgy to, oh, well, if Battlecruisers are out and we have more than, let's say, 6, and then a comfortable amount would be 10 for sure, I actually think Battlecruisers are so much better.
There is nothing, in my opinion, there is nothing in this matchup that is better than a max out of Battlecruisers. Like, with this many Tempests on the field, we're not at the point where the BCs are big threats. The best thing you could do with it now is run it around the edge of the map and try to hit the northeast space or the southwest space from like the corner, but an observer will see on the southwest. Like, what you want to do is just pull the army over and then teleport back. But yeah, I mean, if you can get up to, like, if you can get 10 or more, then you start to reach, like, you're just cracked, because once you teleport on the Tempest, they literally can't stop to shoot because there's just too many BCs chasing.
Actually, one's already going to go down. Not the best use of his first BC. It teleported in where these other two were just casually walking around. So they'll be able to teleport out that time. But that also alerted Rail to the Battlecruiser problem. Because I actually think it is a problem that, like, it's going to make people say, do I push? Because I'm really quite scared of them of maxed out Battlecruisers. And if they push, do they do it in error? He's actually trying to push into this base, but there's Liberators. The planetary is done. And he doesn't know how many Battlecruisers are actually, like, done. So what if he's taking this engagement and suddenly 7 Battlecruisers warped in?
I mean, I love this, though. He got a bunch of probe kills, killed a couple Stalkers, Yamato on the way out in the northeast. Now he has the Ghost nuking that center left base, and it's going to kill a lot of probes here. There's a couple extra stacked on that assimilator, so 16 probes blown to smithereens. And he actually retained those Battlecruisers from the initial fight. So those guys went home, and that is definitely the best way that you want to do it. So I was going to point out, like, Soul doesn't have a crazy big bank. And as much as you talk about mules, like, Battlecruisers are 400 minerals. Okay, you can't just lose those. They're very expensive units that you don't want to trade. The whole point of BCs is that they don't die. That's the reason why they are as good as they are. Until you have 16 of them, then you teleport on the opponent's army and you collect your paycheck.
Did you know he didn't have Colossus range his entire time? It literally just finished. It literally just finished.
You just finished Colossus. Hey, I don't know. I was watching the Onion news, and they said that you don't need Colossus range till 20 minutes. So.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, the Vikings help against the Tempest here too, right? Also important to note.
I feel like Rail, I mean, he doesn't have much of a bank for gas specifically, and that's going to be a problem. If there's more back and forth on the harassment, I feel like it's going to be a really decent game for him. But what ended up happening is after Soul got comfy and delayed his upgrades, really, like it kind of became a passive game. Soul was the one that was actually doing damage. Once his nukes got up, right? Like he's been doing damage consistently, and Rail has he's got no pushback. You know, and it's like that's all well and good if your army really is going to be better than your opponent's. So then you force this like weird all-in at 25 minutes. But his army's not going to be as good as Soul's. The battlecruiser count continues to grow, and that just means he's going to get slowly pushed back to his third, his fourth, his natural, and slowly lose the game.
I still don't really like how much he's pushing. He's posturing with the BCs. Like you have to have a large amount of your supply available to deal with the BCs. You should always be trying to send the battlecruisers wherever the Tempests are. And I understand he doesn't want to lose his base, but the battlecruisers can't defend this base. It doesn't matter. If he runs them forward, the only thing they're going to do is die. I guess he doesn't need to harass that way if he can just keep nuking it. I don't know. He's not responding to the nukes almost. Like this is, I don't know if Rail is like, if he's just got like Ariana Grande just like blasting at 200 decibels in his ear and he just can't hear the nuke alerts. Or he's like dancing or something. No, we have his player cam, I think, every once in a while. I don't think he's dancing, but like this is, these nukes are being way too cost effective. They're way too good. The ghosts should not be nuking every other base and actually hitting pay dirt half the time. That's not what's supposed to happen.
Agreed. On both accounts, so the way he's using his battlecruisers, I think he really could have just played it. I mean, he could have lost that base, and I think it would have saved himself more minerals than he would have, you know, lost in giving up that base if he just didn't sacrifice units trying to guard it. And then he could have continued his expansion up to the top right. There's another rich Vespian gas geyser that he could take, and I know that it's like a domino effect that each player is going to be scared of. One base falls, what if the next base falls, right? Like, I get that, but I do wish that Soul had been a little more conservative with his battlecruisers. We now are up to a count of 11 with this most recent battlecruiser. They've got upgrades. They're fully healed as well. They don't have full upgrades, mind you, but they've got 3-2. I know, it's going to be an engagement.
Yeah, that's honestly enough. There you go. Throw out a ton of Yamatos. Getting onto the Tempest is still a little bit hard, but Tempest kiting against this many BCs, this is where you start to see the battlecruisers become a little bit harder to deal with because you kind of need to focus fire to deal with them in this situation, since if you just kind of stutter step, the Tempest will shoot the closest target to them. That's just how Starcraft AI works. So the battlecruisers will not all get individually targeted down in one shot. Instead, it's a lot easier to teleport them out because a bunch of them go down into the orange, some into the yellow, and they never really get low enough that you're going to actually kill them. I think the most important thing, though, Soul got that other gold gas space in the northeast, so he's still pulling in the money. Both players are getting pretty broke, but as the number of battlecruisers increases, it eventually becomes impossible to stop. Like, if he gets like 16, 17 battlecruisers, I do not see a path to victory for Rail. Like, you really need to take that opportunity early on when you recognize they're going into BCs. If the Terran's willing to give you that information, you need to make something happen then and there, because eventually this does snowball into something quite monstrous.
Honestly, it's like it doesn't happen often enough to say with 100% certainty that mass battlecruisers is the best thing ever. It's, you know, maybe OP, I would say, but it happens.
I'm okay with being
enough.
wrong if that's the case.
Right, exactly. It happens enough that in my experience, whenever it's past like the 15 battlecruiser point, yeah, the Protoss player just loses, unless it's like literally like a base race, which is actually what Rail is forcing. So making this as weird as possible is, I think, his best chance. They've both taken out a lot of economy. Now Soul's on top of production, but we can't say the same for Rail. So Soul might even be able to actually get out 3 more battlecruisers for the eventual final fight, and that means it'd be 17 battlecruisers against 15 Tempests.
Yeah, and that's where it becomes incredibly difficult, because he's wedging himself inside that Terran base, and it's not gonna be super easy to just try to move command or teleport your way out. There you go. BCs are gonna flank. The rest of the army with the Vikings are gonna teleport and rush over as well, and the Tempest count begins to drop like it's hot, zombie grub. We have 10 battlecruisers, 11-12 now versus just 6 Tempests and falling. And the most important thing to keep in mind is that not only did he deal all that damage back inside of Rail's base, but he made sure to clean up the tech on the way out. So GG, well played there by Soul. And that is...